Hello, my lovely witches, my fellow pagans, and those of you who've ever woken up from a dream and thought, well, that was either profoundly spiritual or my subconscious has finally gone completely feral. Welcome back to Anonymous Crone. Welcome back to the Dream Realm. This is part 2. Now, if you had joined me for part 1, you would have known that we've already walked through dream symbols, prophetic dreams, visitations, mysterious places where science and spirituality sometimes work together, but occasionally glare at each other from opposite sides of the room. Tonight, though, we're moving beyond the theory, because understanding dreams, well, that's one thing. Working with them is something completely different. For thousands of years, us humans, we've used dreams as tools. Tools for healing, for guidance, for self-discovery, although most historical magic was surprisingly practical. The village wise woman was not on cliffs out there screaming at thunderstorms. She was actually helping her neighbors. She was growing herbs, delivering babies, and interpreting dreams. So dream work has always been one of the most accessible forms of magic because every single one of us, we already have the necessary tool. We sleep. And that's it. The universe apparently decided that this particular doorway should be available to everybody. So pour yourself something warm and sit back and get comfortable. Tonight we're going to be discussing dream incubation, dream pillows, protection practices, nightmares, recurring landscapes, etc. So let's begin. Most people think dreams are random. Now, before anyone sends me any angry emails, I'm not saying that every dream's a prophecy, and I'm not saying every dream contains hidden divine wisdom. Sometimes a weird dream is just that. It's just a weird dream. Sometimes your brain is just processing information. Sometimes your body is just sorting memories. And sometimes you just watched a horror movie, ate Taco Bell at midnight, and wonder why your subconscious has created psychological mayhem. But here's what I am saying. Dreams, they matter, whether you view them through a spiritual lens, a psychological lens, or somewhere in between. Dreams reveal information. They can reveal fears and desires. They show patterns. They bring back memories. They open up possibilities. The subconscious notices things long before our conscious mind catches up. How many times have you sensed something that wasn't right before you even had evidence? Or how many times have you had a feeling about someone that you couldn't explain and you turned out to be correct? Dreams often operate in that same space, the space where wisdom arrives before explanation. And that's why us witches have worked with dreams for centuries. Not because they provide clarity or certainty, like right away, but it's because they provide insight. And insight can be pretty valuable. One of the oldest dream practices in recorded history is dream incubation. The name sounds a little complicated, but the practice isn't. Dream incubation just means you're asking yourself a question before sleep and inviting your dreams to respond. The process is pretty simple, though. Before bed, ask one question, one thing that you are trying to get the answer to. You can ask, what am I not seeing? What lesson am I avoiding? What do I need to understand? Write the question down. Read it aloud. Place it beneath your pillow. And then release it. That's the part that a lot of people struggle with. Because, we love control. We ask the question and then immediately start demanding answers. We become spiritual toddlers. Is it working? What about now? Are we there yet? The dream realm does not respond well to interrogation. What you need to do is just plant the seed. Trust the process. Let the answer come when it comes. And sometimes the answer won't arrive as words. It may come as a symbol, an emotion, a recurring image, a conversation. Sometimes it comes back as a memory. Dreams speak in metaphors. Because apparently, our subconscious believes that direct communication would be far too fucking easy. So let's go ahead and talk about some dream symbols. Not because dream dictionaries are always correct, because they're not, but because symbols are one of the most primary languages of dreams. The problem is people want universal answers. They want certainty. They want a book that says snake equals this. Water equals this. Birds equal this. But unfortunately, dreams are far more personal. A snake It may represent healing for one person, but it also may represent fear for another. It could also mean transformation to somebody else. And an actual snake for those who spent the day handling reptiles. Context matters, emotions matter, personal experiences matter the most. The question is not, what does this symbol mean? The better question is, what does the symbol mean to me? Dream interpretation is less about decoding a secret message and more about having a conversation with yourself. And sometimes those conversations is something that we desperately need. Most people spend more time listening to strangers online than listening to their own inner voice. And one of the best practices, something that I touched on in part 1, is dream journaling. And I know it's not exciting, it's just a notebook, but dream journals are very powerful because memory fades very fast. You wake up remembering every detail, but 10 minutes later, you've already forgotten half of it. And an hour later, all you can remember is, well, there was a clown. Dream journaling can preserve that information. It reveals patterns. The longer you keep this up, the more patterns you're going to see. The more recurring themes you're going to see, recurring emotions, recurring locations. Sometimes the same house or the same road, the same forest, again and again. Dream journals transform isolated experiences. It takes your collective dreams and turns it into meaningful stories. And eventually, you'll begin seeing the connections that you've never noticed before. So let's talk about dream pillows or sleep sachets. For centuries, us witches, we've always created dream pillows or sachets, not because we expect herbs to magically force prophetic visions, but because rituals prepare the mind. Lavender for peace, chamomile for rest, rose for emotional healing, rosemary for memory, mugwort for dreaming, and eucalyptus is always soothing. But what this is, it's packing herbs or dried flowers into tiny pillows or flat pouches that can easily be slid into your pillowcase. Make them fresh before bed and imbue it with your intention. The herbs themselves become part of a sensory experience. The scent becomes a signal. The signal becomes a habit. The habit becomes a doorway. And suddenly, bedtime is no longer just bedtime, it's sacred space. And our ancestors understood something that today's society, we always forget. Ritual changes us, even simple rituals like this. Now we're going to be getting into different types of dreams. I did want to throw that in there about the dream pillows, just because it's a very soothing way to put yourself down for the night. This is something that I need to get back into personally. I used to use little silk bags that I would fill with lavender, and that smell would be very soothing. It would help me fall into sleep. And nowadays, when I smell lavender, I think of sleep. But anyways, I started soft because we're going to be jumping into nightmares. I know nightmares are dreams that nobody enjoys. Most people fear nightmares, and I understand why. They can be terrifying or disturbing or emotionally exhausting. But sometimes nightmares carry important information. Not always. Sometimes they're just to scare the shit out of you, but often enough, they carry important information that you need to know. Your shadow self, the part of ourselves that we avoid, or we deny, we suppress or ignore, frequently appear through our nightmares. It can be unresolved grief, or fear, or trauma, anger, regret, or shame. Dreams bring these to the surface because healing requires awareness. Awareness isn't always comfortable. Sometimes the nightmare isn't trying to hurt you. Sometimes it's trying to help you. Albeit poorly, the delivery method sucks, but the intention may still be good. So when nightmares reoccur, ask yourself these questions. What emotion dominated the dream? What patterns repeated? What part of my life feels similar? And the answer may surprise you. Ancestral dreams. One of the most common experiences reported across all cultures involves dreams of ancestors, of grandparents, parents, relatives, loved ones who have passed. Sometimes they're only people you've ever seen in photos or have heard stories about. But whether these dreams are psychological or spiritual, or both, is a question each person must answer for themselves. What interests me is how profoundly meaningful these experiences can be. Many people describe receiving comfort or guidance or closure, a final conversation, sometimes a warning, sometimes just simply love. And love, well, that's reason enough. And maybe part of magic isn't about where the dreams come from, but recognizing what it's given us. Healing, connection, hope, and those things matter. Another common dream experience involves mysterious teachers, strangers who somehow feel familiar, like a wise woman or just old men, kids, animals, figures who offer guidance. Sometimes they teach us, sometimes they ask us questions, and sometimes they deliver a message so cryptic they make ancient prophecies look straightforward. But many dream practitioners report encountering similar dream guides throughout their whole life. Whether they emerge from the subconscious or something beyond it remains open to interpretation. Either way, they make you think, and you learn from them. Dream journaling is vital here. Another type of dream is dream geography. Have you ever returned to the same city in a dream? The same beach, the same road, the same impossible shopping mall? Well, you're not alone. Many develop entire dream landscapes, places that don't exist physically, yet remain consistent. Some dreamers can actually sit down and map them out. Sometimes they're neighborhoods or just buildings, sometimes gardens or stores. The subconscious appears capable of creating entire worlds. Think about that, entire worlds inside your own mind. And people still claim human beings aren't magical. Piff! So are these places you've been at when you were a child? Is it a parallel world? A past life? Not sure if we'll ever know that, but these places sometimes give you comfort, as if you lived there your whole life. If the place feels foreign or frightening, maybe it's part of some needed shadow work, or you're having insecurities about travel, or even just the fear of getting lost. Again, dream journaling may help clarify things. Also, try meditation on what you can remember of the recurring place. Another type of dream, and I'm really fascinated about this one because I cannot have these for some weird reason. I'm talking about lucid dreaming. Lucid dreaming occurs when you realize that you are dreaming while still inside the dream. The first time that it happens, I'm told, is unforgettable. And once it does, everything changes. Some people explore. Some people heal. Some people create. Some people become gods of the environment wherever you're at. Some practice skills, and some immediately fly. I support all of these choices, but particularly the flying part. If you do find yourself in lucid dreaming, never ask anybody the time or the date. Apparently the dream people get really pissed off, just from what I've heard. Perhaps the greatest gift that dreams offer isn't prophecy or psychic ability. It isn't even mystical knowledge. It's self-awareness. Dreams remind us that there is more happening beneath the surface than we realize. More wisdom, more mystery, more possibility. They invite us into conversations with ourself. And in a world constantly demanding our attention, that invitation is sacred. So one thing that's debated as well is when we go to sleep, we are open. Our mind is open. And sometimes we need protection because we're so open. So let's go ahead and talk about that. Because everybody wants vivid dreams until they have one that scares the shit out of them. And suddenly, everyone remembers protection exists. Protection before sleep has existed in nearly every magical tradition. Some people use prayers, some use charms or visualization, some use symbols. The methods matter less than the intention. One of the simplest protections that I know requires absolutely nothing. Before sleep, imagine yourself surrounded by light. That's it. Picture a sphere of protective light surrounding your bed, your room, your body. Whatever color feels protective to you, it doesn't matter. The color is not the magic. The intention is. Imagine that light allowing in only what serves your higher good. Everything else can stay out. Simple, elegant, effective. No shopping required. Your wallet is welcome. Another traditional piece of folk magic involves placing a bowl of water near the bed. Water has long been viewed as a spiritual absorbent. Many traditions believe that it can collect unwanted energy during the night. In the morning, the water is poured outside away from the home. Simple folk magic. That's the kind of thing someone's grandmother was probably doing long before anybody called it witchcraft. And honestly, some of my favorite magical practices are exactly that. Practical, accessible, ordinary. Magic doesn't always arrive wrapped in ceremony. Sometimes it arrives disguised as common sense. Now, before we move into the final part of tonight's journey, I want to leave you with a thought. The purpose of dream work isn't to escape reality. It's to understand it more deeply. Dreams are not separate from life. They're part of life. It's part of being human. Part of the ongoing conversation between who we are, who we've been, and who we are becoming. And as we close out tonight's journey through the dream realm, I want to thank each and every one of you for spending this time with me. Whether you're a lifelong witch, a curious seeker, a practicing pagan, or someone who just stumbled across this little corner of the podcast world and thought, what the hell is an anonymous crone? I'm glad you're here. And one of the things I've learned over the years is that none of us walk this path completely alone. We may practice differently. We may follow different gods, different traditions, different philosophies, and different ways of seeing the world, but every one of us has stood beneath the same moon. Every one of us has stared into the darkness and wondered if there was something more. Every one of us has woken from a dream that felt important and carried it with us long after the morning sun arrived. Dreams remind us that there is still mystery in this world. In a time where everything seems to demand certainty, dreams invite us to wonder. In a world that constantly tells us to move faster, dreams ask us to listen. And in a society that often encourages us to ignore our intuitions, dreams gently remind us that our deepest wisdom has been with us all along. So tonight, as you lay your head down to sleep, I hope you give yourself permission to be curious, to pay attention to symbols, pay attention to feelings, pay attention to the whispers. Not because every dream is a prophecy, not because every dream contains some grand cosmic message, but because your inner world matters, your spirit matters. And sometimes the answers we're searching for are not found in books or social media posts or other people's opinions. Sometimes they're waiting quietly inside ourselves, beneath the surface, waiting for us to listen. All right, now it's time for question and answers. During this part of the podcast, I answer your questions that you send to me, whether you send it through email, through DM on social media, or via a carrier pigeon. I will read your question and I will answer them. And if you do not want to give your name, you can remain anonymous, hence the name of the podcast. So tonight's question comes from Micah. Hi, my name is Micah, and I have a dream question for you. I have really vivid dreams anyways, but this one keeps coming back over and over. I'm always in this enormous Victorian-style castle, wandering through the hallways and opening doors. Everything feels incredibly real. Then I randomly walk into this room that is completely covered in what I can only describe as Vatican art, paintings, religious imagery, sculptures. It feels almost like I'm standing in a museum or a cathedral. Now here's what makes me wonder if it means anything. I'm pretty well traveled. I've actually been to the Vatican, so part of me thinks maybe my brain is just mixing up memories together. But because it's the same exact dream every time, I can't shake the feeling that there's something more to it. Does this sound like my subconscious replaying old experiences? Or could the castle and all the Vatican artwork be symbolic of something deeper? I'd love to hear your thoughts. From Micah. I love this question because this is one of the dreams that feels like your subconscious is trying to decorate a room with symbols instead of words. So Micah, let's wander into your castle for a minute. So you got this reoccurring dream where you're walking through what feels like a Victorian-era castle. Then almost unexpectedly, you open a door and there's a room full of Vatican artwork. Since you've actually been to the Vatican, we know your brain has real memories to work with. Our dreaming mind is wonderfully efficient. It loves taking real experiences and rearranging them into symbolic landscapes. Now, here's something that we've talked before on the podcast about. Houses, castles, mansions, even old cottages and dreams often represent the dreamer. Different rooms can symbolize different aspects of your psyche, or memories, emotions, or your beliefs, or even part of your spiritual journey that you haven't fully explored yet. A castle is especially interesting because it's not just a home, it's a fortress. It represents history. It represents protection and ancestry, wisdom, and sometimes the walls we built around ourselves. Victorian architecture also carries a certain feeling of tradition, rules, etiquette, and inherited expectations. Then you walk into a room filled with Vatican art. Now we're changing the emotional language of the dream. Whether you're religious or not, Vatican artwork carries enormous symbolic weight. It represents centuries of spirituality, devotion, mystery, morality, sacred stories, divine inspiration, and humanity's search for something greater than itself. Even if someone is not Catholic, those images have become part of our collective symbolism. So what could your subconscious be saying? One possibility is exactly what you suggested. Your travel memories are blending with symbolic architecture. Dreams do this constantly. Your brain is not creating a documentary, it's creating metaphors. But because the dream keeps returning, I'd ask a few more questions. How do you feel when you enter that room? Are you peaceful? Are you curious? Overwhelmed? Afraid? Or inspired? The emotion is often more important than the objects themselves. If you're filled with awe, maybe your subconscious is inviting you to reconnect with wonder or your own spiritual path. If you're uncomfortable, perhaps you're examining beliefs you inherited or questioning old ideas about faith, authority, and morality. If you're simply observing the artwork, it may represent wisdom you're beginning to appreciate without necessarily adopting the beliefs attached to it. And I find it fascinating that you're not dreaming of attending a service or speaking with clergy. You're just looking at art. Art is storytelling. It's symbolism. It's mythology painted onto walls. And isn't that what dreams are? They're symbolic paintings our subconscious creates while we're asleep. I almost wonder if your mind is saying, pay attention to the symbols. Whatever path we walk, we sometimes forget that symbols are a universal language. We don't have to agree with every tradition to learn from the symbols they've preserved. I wouldn't necessarily interpret this as a message about Catholicism at all. I would interpret it as a message about sacred imagery, about history, about search for meaning, about entering another room within yourself. And because it keeps recurring, I'd be curious whether each visit to the castle changes. Do you discover new rooms or different artwork? Have you discovered any hidden staircases? Or are you always drawn back to the same chamber? Recurring dreams usually continue until we've noticed what they're trying to show us. So next time you have this dream, try something different. Instead of simply looking at the artwork, ask a question. Walk right up to the painting and ask, why are you here? Dream characters and dream symbols have an uncanny way of answering us when we least expect it. You might be surprised at what your subconscious has been waiting to tell you. And Micah, if you ever do get an answer from one of those paintings, you absolutely have to let us all know. I have a feeling this castle still has a few unopened doors. Thank you for writing in. And if any of you out there have any questions for this old crone, please email me at acronepodcast@gmail.com. All right, so sorry about all the background noise. Some asshole decides 8 o'clock in the morning is a perfect time to mow their yard. Anyways, it is time for our special guest spot. This, if you listened to part 1, you heard the guest spot, the Dreamwalker. This is the Dreamwalker's wife.
Hello, I am the Dreamwalker's wife, and I have my own unique dreaming situations. So I am not a dream walker by any means of that. I am a lucid dreamer, so I can change certain things about my dreams, but I am not able to pick my dreams or astral project or anything like that. One crazy thing about my dreams ever since I was a child is sometimes I'll have dreams and they won't necessarily make sense. And then when I'm awake, I'll be just going about my natural day and I will have deja vu. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I dreamt this before. This has happened before. The first time that ever happened to me, I was actually at a baton twirling competition. I walked into a gymnasium and all I saw was exactly what was going on in my dream. And I stopped. I just freaked out. I was talking to my mom. I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, I've been here before. I was holding a Diet Pepsi in my hand. I walked into the gymnasium and that was what was in my dream. And it completely threw me off. It was so crazy. And my mom, she just pulled me aside. She's like, we'll talk about it later. She explained to me that deja vu is a thing that happens, just at random sometimes. But even in my adult life, it still continues to this day. I'll have a dream. It doesn't make any sense. And a couple days later, boom, happens in real life. It's like seeing a piece of the future. It is so crazy. Also, with reoccurring dreams, I was having this reoccurring dream. I was in my grandmother's home, and my grandmother has this spot in her home where there's a landing and then you turn to the left and there's stairs that go into the basement. So at the landing, there's a door that goes to the outside. So I go by the landing and I look down the stairs and the stairs are super, super steep and steeper than they are in real life, super dark. So I walk down the stairs and they feel like they're never ending and feels like I'm being drawn and pulled downstairs. Take a right when you go into the basement and there was this huge great room, and then to the left there was this small back room. So I go into the back room and there's nothing but these bags filled with clothes just all the way up to the ceiling. And on top of these bags, this demon with no features or anything starts crawling its way towards me, stretching out and reaching towards me, and it would wake me up every single time. And every so often I would have this same dream, except I was in a different house and the house would start to warp and I would feel this creepy sensation in the back of my head, like someone's watching me, something is pulling at me, and I would see this shadow creature reaching out for me again. It was really, really creepy and scary, and it would give me sleep paralysis. It was really weird situation. And then actually one day in bed, I was grabbed by something and it pulled me and woke me up to the point where I was screaming, and I woke my husband up, but I was just something pulled me out of bed, and I freaked out. My little brother put holy water and holy oil in my room, and then after that, I never had that dream again, and I never had any problems. It was the strangest phenomenon. It was probably just some entity trying to reach out to me, but I was frightened by it. So there's so many things that happen in dreams that are just so, beyond comprehension, and so I love the dream realm, and I love, the different types of dreamers and learning about the dream realm. So that's my experience with dreaming. I hope y'all enjoyed my little story.
Thank you so much for sending that in. And if any of you out there would like to share your own personal experiences or just tell a cool story, if you would like a guest spot, please email me at acronepodcast@gmail.com. And before you drift off to dreamland, here is tonight's Crone's blessing. May moonlit paths before you gleam, and wisdom flow through every dream. May spirits kind draw ever near, while guiding love dissolves all fear. May stars above your slumber keep, and blessings find you while you sleep. Till morning wakes with silver beams, may magic walk within your dreams. Thank you for joining me tonight in the Dream Realm. Until next time, sleep well, dream deeply, trust your intuition, and remember, the answers we seek are often waiting in the quiet places we forget to listen. See you next week here at Anonymous Crone.